Hey everybody, what I want to talk about today is just an introduction. We're actually not going to solve any equations, any quadratic equations using this method right away. For this first video, I just want to talk to you about this magical method called using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula allows us to find the solutions to a quadratic equation just using this simple tool. Well, it's maybe not that simple, but this simple formula that is provided here. So given ax squared plus bx plus c is equal to 0, we can take these coefficients a, b, and the constant c and put them into this magical recipe that says x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus, so we have a positive and a negative, plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, and then take that whole sum or difference and divide it by 2 times a. Now, you should remember that the x equals negative b over 2a was our axis of symmetry, right? This is the location of the vertex of the parabola that represents the function y equals ax squared plus bx plus c. Now, this part right here, this b squared minus 4ac, this is called the discriminant. Because what this will allow us to do is, if we're able to compute b squared minus 4ac, then that will tell us what kinds of solutions we should get. If this difference, b squared minus 4ac, is bigger than 0, then we'll be taking the square root of a positive number. That means that we're going to get 2 real solutions, a positive root and a negative root that will then add with the opposite of b and then take that difference or sum and divide it by 2a. If that quantity, the radicand here under the square root, b squared minus 4ac, if that's equal to 0, then we're going to have one real solution. And then finally, if b squared minus 4ac is less than 0, then we'll be taking the square root of a negative number, or a negative quantity, which means that we're going to end up with complex solutions, all right, an imaginary component. And so we've got to be ready for all of those things. You don't necessarily have to think through all of that before you do, before you actually start computing or calculating, but it's important to just keep your eyes on that so that you aren't surprised by your answers, by the solutions that you find for x. There are a couple skills that are required for this process. Obviously, you need to understand the order of operations. If you don't understand that you use your grouping symbols, your parentheses, then your exponentiation, which includes square root. Square root is actually an exponent, and we'll talk about that in a couple sections ahead. After taking care of exponents, you have to handle your multiplication and your division from left to right. And finally, you have to do your addition or subtraction at the very end. Now, this is very important for those of you that are heavy calculator users, because your calculator will do exactly what you tell it to do. So if you forget to put a set of parentheses or grouping symbols around the numerator or around the denominator, it will confuse your solution, all right? Your calculator will do what you tell it to do, not necessarily what you meant to tell it to do. So you have to understand your order of operations. You need to know how to simplify radicals. Obviously, when we're simplifying the square root of b squared minus 4ac, in all likelihood, we're going to have a radical to simplify. Especially if there's a complex or an imaginary component there, you're going to have to address that. So make sure that you know how to simplify radicals. And finally, I might as well bring it up, you need to know how to simplify fractions and performing operations with fractions. Those things don't go away. You've been working with them for 5, 6, 7 years, and so we should be able to handle fractions. The key here is recognizing that fractions are our friends. We can do multiplication, division, addition, subtraction much easier when working with fractions than if we are using decimal representations of those rational numbers. So make sure that you got your bag of tricks handy to handle your order of operations, your simplifying of radicals, and of course your simplifying of fractions. The quadratic formula is x is equal to the opposite of b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac, all of that divided by 2 times a. All right, so we're going to use that formula. Our first process here is just going to be making sure that we can put the numbers into the correct places. And then slowly but surely, we will work through the simplifying process of actually working that monstrosity down to tell us actually what x is. There are two solutions. So enjoy the next couple of videos where we'll do some examples.